One of the hardest deals I ever turned down was, let me think. Yeah, it was 3 days after I made the decision to lean in TicketTote, not taking more clients.
The
I
universe
was
is
on.
testing you.
Yeah, oh, was it ever?
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
You've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
How you doing today, Jay? Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. I'm pretty excellent. We're actually getting sunshiny weather in Winnipeg, Canada right now. So that's like a first in the last 18 months. So
Oh, really?
good. It's been horrendous.
Okay. Well, I'm not very familiar with Winnipeg. I've been fortunate the last couple of weeks. I've spent in Orlando and San Diego, but now I'm back in St. Louis with the humidity. So
yeah, that's fortunate. I would say that's fortunate. I'm heading to Vegas this at the end of the week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of
big conference or fun?
Client onboarding.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, and you are with TicketTote.
So Sync Digital Solutions is the main company, and then TicketTote is a trademark and a brand underneath Sync Digital Solutions.
Awesome. Before we just sit here and chit chat about Vegas and all our shenanigans, could you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what it is that you are currently doing?
Sure. So my name is Jay. I'm an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur since the age of 12. And all of my entrepreneuring, all my business ownership kind of came together, business development and event coordination into what is now our main project, which is TicketTote, which is an event management ticketing platform.
Okay, and then who is the audience for that ticketing platform?
So our main audience is small and medium-sized venues or event planners, and we're working our way into the large segment like arenas and concerts or arenas and stadiums and convention centers.
Right. So the smaller players have not smaller players, but small businesses. They want to have an event. They don't have a lot of ticketing options. Is that the problem today?
Well, there are a lot of options. The problem is there's a lot of fragmented options. So, for example, one of the clients we're onboarding in Vegas, currently they use 8 different platforms to be able to achieve what they ultimately want to achieve on one. And as we've built the platform, we didn't build it in layers like a lot of platforms are built. So if you pull this layer out, the whole stack falls down.
Right.
We built it like a spider. So buy tickets and sell tickets in the middle, and then every feature is a leg coming off. As creepy as that sounds, it's how it works. So if you have to break a leg off, it doesn't happen to hurt anything else in the body. So we do a lot of custom solutions, and so we built all those solutions of the 8 sites and then some into TicketTote.
All right. So because I've been in the hosting world for so long, I'm familiar with a lot of different businesses, and this is one that I'm not overly familiar with. But I think Ungerbach is the main player in that field.
Well,
for the big guys, that's like Sydney Center, Porsche Center, and those guys.
Well, Ticketmaster and Eventbrite are by far the largest takers of the audiences, and then it breaks down from there. We have identified 22 competitors that we kind of keep an eye on, and then in Canada our main competitor would be ShowPass, and in the US our main competitor is Eventbrite for sure.
Okay, so more the ticketing system, not necessarily venue management, like coordinating concessions and all that stuff, or do you got that in there too?
Yeah, we're an event management ticketing platform, so everything from pre-production checklists all the way to post-production financial needs and everything in between. We currently have just over 400 features on the site. By the end of the year we're going to have just over 1,500.
Okay, so is TicketTote, like if you're competing with Eventbrite, just so that I kind of know, I'm an end user, I can come to you and just create my events and start selling tickets, or do you onboard and it's like a self-hosted white label solution for my company?
It depends on what you're looking for and
I can do both.
We do both. It depends on so it really depends on your needs. We do have our largest client that we just brought on, they are totally white labeled. But then we have large clubs, like for example, Backstage in Vegas, they do hundreds of events. They don't care about being white labeled, so they're on the main solution.
Okay, lots of lots of moving parts in that business, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
I'm making the
24
assumption, and this is just more out of my curiosity than anything, when you're doing that with the venues, do you get exclusive ticket rights, or can they still sell through Ticketmaster and all that other stuff?
It largely depends. A lot of companies love to stay exclusive. I mean, I obviously love for them to be exclusive,
Right.
but a lot of companies do want to be exclusive with one ticket vendor because it can become an absolute operations nightmare
Nightmare.
if you're selling tickets on multiple platforms, right? So,
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine, right? Two people want center stage first row at the same time from two different platforms, and how do you manage that? There's got to be
yeah,
some
and
kind
then
of
multiple devices scanning at the door, and it just becomes a headache. I actually we did work with a festival who said, well, we don't want to abandon these guys, we want to try you guys out. And I flew out for the festival. This was pre-COVID, and there was 15,000 people attending, and they had 3 different devices going for every single entry at the door, and it got to the point it was unmanageable. People were just giving up.
Right.
The staff were quitting because there's nothing we can do here. So myself and my team, we took over the TicketTote side of things, and then they dealt with the other two.
we just made it like Woodstock and just let everybody in. At that
Well, yeah, I guess you go that road. Yeah.
So that would have been my approach at that point. Like, okay, let's just make it epic and pull the gates and let everybody in.
Well,
So-
music festivals are the most interesting business we have because you literally never know what the people throwing the events have no idea what's going to happen. The artists
Right.
have no idea what's going to happen, and the ticket vendor have nobody has any idea what's going to happen show day. It's every single festival that I've either coordinated myself or that I've been a part of through TicketTote, total disaster show day. So we try to minimize that. That's why TicketTote went from event ticketing to event management ticketing. We're really trying to minimize, especially for the event planners that are just starting out. When I started out, I had no tools. I had no
Right.
resources. I had nowhere to start. I just made all these fumbling mistakes every single time I threw a show, and I figured it out for myself. So given that, and given that I know a lot of people in the industry, we're building a site that we want event planners to see as a resource to be able to skip those mistakes if they can.
Right. Awesome. All right. So you've been an entrepreneur since you were a kid,
Yes.
and I read your bio a little bit, and you started. Tell us a little bit about your DJing career, and then how that led into what you're currently doing today. Like, because I like to talk about how we stack on top of things to build. You got your failure moments and your pivots and all that stuff. And as a kid, you really wanted to be a DJ, and now you're selling tickets to music festivals, right? So we'd love to hear the story on that transition.
Well, my entrepreneurial journey really starts very similar, I found out, to Mark Cuban's entrepreneurial journey. So I'm really hoping the success at the end of the gate is the same as his. He started out selling garbage bags door to door. I started out doing door to door garbage pickup. And then stinky job. I don't recommend it unless you have a really high powered shower at home.
Yes.
Good Lord. And also I would go, because I lived in a small town from grade 7 to grade 11, and it was hard to get hockey cards in town, but we all love trading hockey cards. So my parents would take me in the city. I would buy out a ton of hockey cards. I would then open the packages, find the players that were hot or the teams that were hot, and guarantee them in every package and resell them at a premium to my classmates. So, and Mark Cuban did that with baseball cards.
Right.
So I found it very encouraging. But what actually ended up really starting my journey towards TicketTote was in grade 6. I'm in a class dance, and Carrie Rogowski, still remember her. She came up and asked me for a pity dance because nobody was dancing with me. Right? I was a runt. I was very shy, introverted kid, so I didn't really have a lot of friends. And so we're dancing to Bryan Adams' "Everything I Do It For You" or whatever, which is one of the longest songs in the world to dance to. So sweating, stepping on her feet, not able to look at her. After that dance, I was like, that's it. I can't ever be put in that position again. What's the only way that's going to happen is if I'm behind the music. So that's literally why I started DJing, because I was so scared of girls that I needed to get away from them. So that started the journey, and I wasn't great by any means. But there was I somehow my name got out there. I did this DJ competition. I actually got beat up outside the DJ competition. They stole my gear because I was so bad. But then a DJ who was well known in the city, very good, very talented, he took me under his wing, came back to the same competition a year later and won it, which was super cool.
Right.
Still in high school, all my friends and I, and just now I'm a DJ, people like me, right? So now I have friends, and everybody's looking for things to do on the weekends. So I started renting out a Legion, a hall, and throwing parties. And they became well known. I hooked up with a bunch of other guys who we threw these really large parties. And then I went back to school. He continued on with the parties. He got out of school, I got out of school. He wanted to go into school, so I ended up taking them over. And we ended up, I ended up just doing parties, and I owned a record label. I worked in political events, from tiny little candidates to all the way to presidential campaigns and prime minister campaigns in Canada and the US. And ultimately what ended up happening was I was still doing event coordination. And I had started out on a site named Diobo as a developer and as a customer for my events. And the owner of that site, Steve Schaefer, he ended up getting sick and unfortunately passing away. Before he did, he wanted to settle his affairs. I purchased Diobo from him, mostly to use it for my own events. But right around the time of the purchase, I ended up paralyzed, shattered my back. So nothing really happened with it. It kind of sat on the bench for a couple of years. And then it took a couple of years to recover from my injury. And then as I was shopping it, trying to figure out what to do with Diobo, because the website hadn't changed from 2007 to 2016. Not one change was made to it, completely broken. Great database, terrible website. I started to realize the negative affinity that came with the name Diobo. Nobody could spell it. Everybody called it Diobo. And so we rebranded to TicketTote, and here we are today.
Okay, so this has been a while that you've on the TicketTote path, and it starts with an acquisition.
Yes.
In reality, are you walking now?
Yeah. Oh, I'm better than ever now. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I ended up going through dozens of stem cell treatments when doctors had told me that chances are I'd be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And a nurse came to me in the middle of the night one night and said to me, you know what? All these back surgeries and everything, I've been around the block a few times. I'm telling you, probably won't work. Your best option, although I'm saying this to you off the record, is to get stem cells. I couldn't walk without major support. I had a walker, I had a wheelchair, did my first injection, and I was up on my feet without any support. Now, granted, every step was pain, every moment was agony, but I could walk. And then it just continued from there. And today I'm in the best shape of my life.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
a
you.
phenomenal story. I've been through my fair share of surgeries, and I've had the stem cell therapy, some stem cell therapy as well. And I'm a huge fan. I try to stay out from under the knife as much as possible. But
yes, absolutely. And I've become just the biggest supporter of nurses since then. I mean, I do so many campaigns because nurses are just the most underappreciated people on earth, considering what they do for us. And so that whole journey, it really made me a better person. It made me a more active person. It made me really look at medicine and science from a different perspective, which forced me to look at business from a different perspective.
Right.
And brought the I didn't really think I had time for advocacy or charity or anything back in the day, but you learn when somebody helps you through something that extensive, that dramatic in your life, you have no choice. You have to help, So, and I think it takes a while for some of it. I'm a late bloomer. I've admitted that to everybody. It takes me a really long time to come around to some things. But every entrepreneur I talk to, the ones that love what they do are the ones that are using what they do as a vehicle to help out some other, party, entity, or person. So
absolutely. And it's so important about the medical, and I know this is way off topic from your business, but I love this story, and mine's not totally dissimilar. I love capitalism. I love entrepreneurship. I love businesses. But what the American public needs to understand, at least the American public, and I'm not sure about the Canadian medical system, is that in capitalism, our medical systems are capitalistic, and the doctor has a financial agenda when he's giving you treatment, right? And studies have to show certain things. So, I mean, this is a personal thing that everybody has to deal with at some point in their life, where they're going to either take their doctor's advice or go with some kind of alternative medicine. And I just really urge everybody on the planet that if they're sick and they're looking for help, to get multiple opinions from multiple people and use your gut, because that's I think the only thing you have at the end of the day. In reality.
Yeah, we have less of it because we don't pay for very much in terms of like a straight. I broke my back in the States.
Okay.
My bill was over $8 million.
Right.
And it was all covered under travel insurance from Canada. Thank God.
Yeah.
Or else there would not.
Well, they probably would have never collected, right? I mean, the bill's there, but they probably would have never collected. So
yeah. So, but I also wouldn't want to live with that, right? This $8 million bill hanging over my head. But you're right. It's a business, like every business, and there's people in the business looking and saying, how do we make money? And also the thing is stem cells. There isn't a single doctor I've ever talked to that doesn't want stem cells as a part of regular medical treatment, but it's always so political. Everything's so political, and it's not. I seriously, I know tons of doctors and nurses. They all want to be able to do stem cell treatments in hospitals, in every hospital. Yeah, they can't. They're not allowed to. Because one president or one prime minister comes in, they support it. The next one doesn't. We saw this with Bush, Obama. It's just the way.
Well, I think that problem is the harvesting of the stem cells, right? That's the real argument. But anyway, we'll move past that. I think that's another show. Your current company structure today is you have a holding company, and TicketTote is one of those things. I also read that you've had a couple of successful marketing firms or marketing agencies in your career. Are those still running, or have you exited from both of those?
So I exited from one. The other is currently running. We're not accepting any new clients or anything, but we're working with the client base we have. We have a great client base of restaurants, nightclubs, real estate agents. Really great. And we've come up with a great system for them as well. It works. I pretty much cut out anything that was going to take away from TicketTote growing in the last year or last 18 months, we'll say. But the agency that side of things doesn't take away from it. But I sold off my last event entity at the beginning of this year, which was a Halloween event called Fear, which was one of my favorite things in the world to do until everybody got locked up for COVID and came out, and then society didn't know how to act.
Yes.
I really lost my love for it last year. So I sold to somebody who still has the love for it. I was in school during the pandemic, and I knew I would never finish it. I was doing it to feed my brain because at the time it was advertising and events. Nobody needed me. But I cut out all that stuff. Now it's my existing client base with Sync and TicketTote. And then we have a we'll call it a parallel application coming out next year to TicketTote, which is going to elevate the entire experience
platform
to a new level. Yeah.
Okay. So super interesting there, because I'm a business guy, entrepreneur, business owner, whatever you want to call it, right? I always struggle with, am I a business owner, entrepreneur, and I really, I don't know what the difference is at the end of the day. But you felt, or at least I think you felt, the need to kind of remove some other distractions so that you could push TicketTote to the next level. Is that why you kind of got some of these distractions?
Yeah, I've always had a lot of balls in the air in my life, with varying degrees of success. However, the pandemic really helped me. I mean, a lot of people don't say that. Financially obliterated me. But as a person, as a business person, it really helped because it allowed me to take a step back and think about what I was doing. I had, we'll say a dozen different things on the go. Everything was doing pretty well, but not great, not as good as it could have been. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to lean into TicketTote a bit and see what happens. I'm going to drop a couple of smaller things, use that time on TicketTote. And TicketTote did better. And then it kept doing better the more I paid attention to it. And I was like, oh, right. It's really funny. I was having this, we had a major success last week. And I was standing on my balcony. It was like 3:30 in the morning, awesome lightning storm happening all around me over the city, literally dancing off of the poles on top of the roofs and everything. Very cool storm. And it kind of hit me. and I know I should have known this my whole life, but I don't know why it took me so long to get there, late bloomer. And some people never get there, and that is, I was able to only do what I'm doing now because I had an unwillingness not to. I needed to learn, constant learning,
Right.
and there were times when I was, let's say in my 20s, where I had a lot of hubris, and I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm good. What I need IPs. Who needs IPs? Lawyers. They're just around to take my money. Who needs to write a business plan? Things like that, right? Yep. But then you start doing these things. You go, wait a second. That just made me think. That just made me think. And the more you do it, the more you think. The more you think. And it seems so basic, but I think the key to business, the key to succeeding in life, is that willingness to learn. And a lot of us, we just don't have that willingness. I know I didn't when I was in school.
Right.
I wanted nothing to do with school, but I got into business school, and all of a sudden I'm top of my class, and the other night when I was just having a little celebratory moment by myself, and I thought to myself, there's no way I got here if I hadn't learned a lesson that you need to learn and never stop.
Right.
So
absolutely. So I like it a lot. But I also see some issues with that, or at least I've seen some issues in myself and other entrepreneurs and business owners. Is we all have a curiosity in learning and this desire to soak up knowledge. And I've seen a lot of people, and I don't know if you have this problem or not, but I'd like to hear your input, not move forward because they don't think they know enough.
Yeah. You know what? So I wouldn't go as far as saying that every entrepreneur knows they need to keep learning. I think that the ones that generally don't get very far are the ones that feel like they don't need to learn. And I was that guy for a while, right? Until I learned, until I learned I need to learn, I was failing at a lot of things because I just didn't know. So I don't think that everybody knows. I think that the ones, us, we're here today. And I think we're here today because we like to learn. But the other thing an entrepreneur absolutely needs to have is a warrior mentality. You're on the front lines with your sword and your shield every day, running into battle. And you
had a shield?
I didn't. Yeah. I forged it out of vibranium in my basement. But that's what it is. So you need to take the knowledge you have in the moment and run as far as you can and attack as hard as you can. But don't forget that when you get that chance to lay down at night after the battle, take that 30 minutes, that 5 minutes, whatever you have, and learn something to progress. I think that's the two together are key. You're right.
And it's a balancing act, and I think you got to be somewhere right in the middle there, because if you're not open to learning, and I've been pompous more times than not probably in my life. Thought that I knew more than the next guy, right? Like, oh, screw you, I don't need that. I can run fast. I can hit harder or run faster, and that will get me through, and then kind of ignored advice and just moved forward. But I've also not moved forward because I thought, I could never actually get there, right? I could never actually do that, or I could never get to that high of a goal, right? So why would I set myself that high of a goal? And I think that you got to be in the middle there. You got to take the chance and go without knowing everything, but with the hubris, I guess, to not the hubris, the other one, right? The hubris
Confidence?
Is overconfident, right? With the humility to know that, hey, I don't know everything, and I'm going to get knocked down. And that's okay. I'm going to get back up, and that will be a learning experience for me.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I've never had that thing where I felt like I couldn't achieve just the craziest of goals.
Really?
Yeah. So
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Sometimes it's worked for me, and a lot of times it hasn't worked for me. But a great example of that is when I had my first DJ gig, that one that I bombed out hard and I got beat up for. I threw up for like 45 minutes before I got on stage. The entire time I was on stage, my hands are shaking. Don't know what to do. My first several years as a DJ, I did not touch the microphone once. I was so scared to hear my voice projected.
Wow. So you were just spinning records.
I was just spinning records. I wouldn't talk. I got people to talk for me. That was the way it went. And then I was forced into a situation where I had to talk. And it was actually oddly enough, a gig my mom got me at one of the properties she was doing. It was like a day for all the neighbors to get together, and like a fair thing. I was DJing it, and the guy who was supposed to talk didn't show up, the radio host. So I ended up having to take over. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait a second. Something's tingling inside of me. I kind of like this. And it's gotten to the point now where, well, a few of the biggest stages I've ever spoke on. I hosted a Kanye West tour through Canada. I introduced the then at the time Senator Barack Obama to 100,000 people at a stadium in Las Vegas. I had to go on for 15 minutes cold and do that. And you know, another pretty valuable spot for that was I host podcasts. I do our tutorial videos, all these things, right? And I really think that had I not had that gig and had I not been forced in that situation to get out of my comfort zone and learn how to talk on a mic, I don't think I would have any of this today, because I would have had to hire people to do all this representation for me, which would have probably blown my budgets, and it wouldn't have gotten as far, right? So, and something you mentioned earlier, actually, I found interesting was you said, you know, I could punch harder, I was stronger or faster. I took boxing for several years.
Okay.
And I thought the same thing. I came into boxing, I'm like, I wasn't the biggest guy, but I could hit hard, right? And I was like, if I just get a chance to hit the guy, he's done. And then I learnd, oh, you can box.
They're hard to hit.
There's strategy here. Oh no! And I was spent by the end of the first round, right?
Yes.
So you get to the point you're like, hey, now I got to learn strategy, and that also helps in business. I recommend everybody do boxing or MMA or something if you're getting into business, even just lightly. You learn so much about strategy when you have to protect your own body.
Yes.
And then you bring that into business. So.
Absolutely. I'm a boxer myself. I own a boxing school. I teach kids every single night of my life.
Cool.
Yes.
Nice.
I leave this nice, peaceful office, and I go to a little gym that my wife and I run together, and that's what we do all night long. So it's a blast.
That's very cool.
For me, the mindset of boxing and business just fall right into each other, and I lean on both of them throughout my days to get through them sometimes, right? So I agree. Having something, and if it's not some kind of combat sport, at least some kind of fitness program that you're on in business. I preach all the time, business almost killed me, right? Not knowing how to deal with the stress of the day. For decades, I didn't know how to go to a happy hour without getting hammered, right? I didn't know how to do it. It was hard. It was expected, right? That's what it was expected of you. You go out and you buy drinks for the clients, and you drink with them. And the guy who, very frequently, the guy that can hang out the longest gets the deal, right? So, needless to say, I used to get a lot more deals than I get today. But my deals today are much more valuable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, you know what's funny is I came up in nightclubs and DJing and all that. I've never drank.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I always felt like there was an advantage there for sure. I was always the last guy standing. But there was also a disadvantage in that you're not part of that club,
Correct.
Where they're all getting drunk together and everything. And that's when, surprisingly, especially in that industry, that's when a lot of the decisions get made, and it's one of those things where I made a conscious decision not to drink because, one, I was DJing clubs when I was underage and I didn't want to get carded.
Right.
But two, I just saw it as, how am I going to be able to control my narrative and the narrative of a room if I can't really think straight?
Right.
And it ended up, sometimes I said to myself throughout my journey, I'm like, God, I really wish I drank, because I would have nailed that deal if I had drank, Yes. But that's kind of what led me to getting out of events. There's a lot of ways I was not made for that industry. I like having a girlfriend. It's a very hard thing to do in that industry. I don't drink.
Absolutely.
I don't hit hard drugs. There's a lot of things that don't really tie me in there. So this was kind of the perfect marriage of what I liked about event coordination and what I didn't like, but I liked in development and business, right? So I could put those together. And I think as an entrepreneur, you're going to fail. Like, it's just the way it is. And you're going to fail because I think along the journey, you have to figure out what your skills are, what you have a natural aptitude for, but then also you got to pair that with what you're passionate about, what you actually enjoy doing, which is such a hard thing to figure out. Everybody thinks it's so easy.
Right.
You know, people say to me all the time, "Oh, you're an entrepreneur. It must be that's the easy road."
Yeah.
Not even close. Not even close. You know, because you go to a job like I have friends become accountants or car salesmen or whatever, right?
Right.
And they're given a purpose, they're given a job, they're given a route to go, you know, all these things. And if they happen to like it, great. If they don't, sometimes they still stay. But regardless, they have that. There's no roadmap for entrepreneurship, even if everybody like to say there is. And the first step is you learning what the heck you want to do, even though you're probably doing something that you hate. And it's because it was the thing that came up, right?
Yes.
You know, oh, I had this opportunity, so I ran with it, and all of a sudden, 5 years later, you're like, "What am I? Why am I still doing this?" You know.
So, I totally agree. And the why am I still doing this part? It's a hard one to do. It's a hard thing to understand in business. And at some point, you made it. You have a company that is doing social or some kind of marketing service, marketing agency, right? So I'm assuming that's, you know. Social media posting, ad purchasing, ad creation, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But you made the decision to stop taking on new clients, right? So that you could focus on something else. And some people would look at that and like, wow, how great would it be to have so much money that I don't even need new clients, right? So, I mean, I guess all payroll is getting hit without any issues. You had plenty of money in the bank. You're driving Lambos and living in mansions. Right, that's the only way you could stop taking clients, so that you could focus on other things.
That's hilarious.
What is that mindset like to make that? Because it's hard when somebody's knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, I want to give you money to do something for me." You know, to me, you know when you're doing something you love when you tell somebody no to something you don't want to do and the pay is good. How do you manage to do that?
You know, one of the hardest deals I ever turned down was. Let me think. Yeah, it was 3 days after I made the decision to lean in TicketTote, not taking more clients.
The universe is testing you.
Yeah. Oh, was it ever? Largest website client in history came to me. Literally my dream client. And he said, he goes, "I have this budget," which was the biggest budget I'd ever seen for a website. "And I have no expectations. I just know I need to be able to sell what I make online. That's it. That's all I want. You come up with the branding, you come up with the design, you come up with the functionality. I will not butt my nose in." But I had already sat my entire team down and said to them, "This is the direction we're going in. I will not go back on this. I swear to you guys," right? And so I had to say to him, "I'm sorry, I'm going to have to refer you to somebody else." And it hurt. For sure, because I'm thinking to myself, man, I just passed up this money. But at the same time, you have to think long term, right? And I've been through enough in my life, enough injuries, enough health, enough relationships falling apart because I'm working too much, all those things where I had to sit back and say, what's going to make me happy? You know, and it's not that I'm not driving a Lambo. I drive a 2019 Chevrolet Traverse Redline Edition. Nice vehicle, great vehicle for me. I don't have those aspirations, the Lambo and all of that. I want a nice living. My perfect end retirement goal would be the ability to travel without having to look at my bank account and write. That's it. I don't need a mansion. I don't need a Lambo. I don't need any of that stuff. You have to be realistic about what your goals are, and you have to say what's going to get me there. And if your goal is you want to have one of those garages that come out of the floor that have all the nice cars, you're probably not going to be able to do what I just did. You know, you're going to have to just follow the money and hope that you are as good as you think you are. And because you're going to have to be that good to get over the hump of, I don't really like what I'm doing, but I'm making a ton of money. I choose to go the other road. I choose just to be happy and to hope that I am as good as what I think I am and my team is. But at the same time, I want everybody to, you know, I built an office environment where you can come here, you work hard, you're goal orientated, deadline orientated, but you also play basketball and lunch. We also go out for lunches, dinners all the time. We go to movies, we go to games. I want to enjoy this journey. I spent too many years not enjoying it for me to now at this stage of my life say, well, I'm just going to keep doing what makes me money. I need a little bit of both, and that's just the way it
Right.
was for me.
Yeah, it's important to learn. I'm not really good at it. I'm very, very bad at saying no to a new job that comes across, right? And it creates, especially in custom work, right? Custom work it pays the best for a job, but it's also long term probably the least profitable way to run a business because,
Yes.
like, scalability and repeatability are basically the same word. If you can't repeat your business, then then it's very, very challenging to scale it,
Yeah.
especially, we're middle of the year in 2022. What are you keeping your staff? Are you experiencing this great resignation issue that other people are? Is it bad in Canada? Is it in the US? Or how are you dealing with that? It's harder to get staff today than it's ever been before.
I hear a lot about the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
The only people that have left here since the beginning of COVID are people that weren't doing their jobs. My team is, that sounds really hard. I realize as I said it, I'm like, that sounded harsh, but that's the truth. They definitely through COVID. Some people I hired based on my relationship with them. That I had to assess that and say why I'm paying someone to be around. Like, why am I doing this? So I should note though that when I let someone go, I do try to line something up more that more suits them on the way out, so they're not left hanging out in the wind. But
I give ridiculous severance packages.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah,
it's like 6 months, man. You go have fun.
Awesome.
Here's 6 months. We'll pay it out over the 6 months, and you find another job. Is how I generally
cool. Yeah.
Stomach that horrible job of letting somebody go.
Yeah, it's not fun, but I can say that most of my team is still here from the beginning of COVID. Nobody's resigning. We sat down as a team and made a decision early on because COVID started right around the time that everybody was supposed to get their pay bumps, and we went to zero income in 48 hours from substantial. So I met with the team and I said, look, we don't know how long this is going to last. The science side of me says I hope it's only going to be a couple weeks, but I doubt it. And so we did a wage freeze at the position it was at and introduced a rev share program, which has been great for us. And I don't have a massive amount of turnover. I do know some businesses that are having a problem with turnover right now. My problem I'm finding, it's hard to hire people right now.
Yes.
It's a mixture of, there's a lot of this weird entitlement out there. And then it's a mixture of, honestly not wanting to work. It's this weird thing, I met with a developer last week who I was really excited to meet with him because he had a great resume. His GitHub was on fire. I was like, this guy's gonna be awesome. Comes in, he says, I learned through COVID I don't really like working, so I'm only willing to give you 15 hours, but you got to pay me for 40. I was like, what? I'm sorry. Do you hear the words that are coming out of your mouth? Yeah. And he said it to me straight faced. I said, this isn't the place for you. And then I had somebody come in who said, I'm sure you're aware of the state of minimum wage and inequality in wages and all that. I said, yeah, no, I'm fully aware of the debate that's happening in the world right now. And he was a fresh off of a marketing class, came in, and he wanted $165 an hour.
That's contractor wage, right? Not FTE wage, full-time employee wage.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that he didn't pass any of my testing during the interview. So I said to him, I said, I think I'm just trying to offer you some advice if you want it. He said, sure, I'll take it. I said, you can't come in asking for $165 an hour if you still don't know how to do the job. I'm like, you're looking for the job after the job after the job. Like right now, you need to just get in and get some real world experience, because what you learned in your class, unfortunately, has been outdated for 3 years.
Right.
So that's what I've experienced through all this.
Yeah, I've got some very unique experience in this world, and some advice for the kids out there, the young people that are looking for jobs is, one, in no way is your hourly rate your value, right? It's the value for the task that needs to be done, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're getting your hourly rate for. It has nothing to do with your personal value. There's no way that we can pay a person what their actual value is for an hour of their time, right? But there's a task that needs to be done, and there's a profit margin that needs to be made to sell that at a reasonable rate, and that's what you can get paid for that particular job. And I find it really odd that the younger generation today is putting this, like, their personal value on their hourly rate, especially when they're learning a new job.
Yeah.
Right. And I can tell you, when my job today that I'm the president of the company at, when 20 years ago, I went to my boss at the time. I'm like, dude, I can make more at McDonald's than I make here. He's like, you can, and you should go if that's the way you're going to think.
Yeah.
And in 20 years, you'll be at McDonald's.
There it is.
Right? But if you want to learn right now, you've got an opportunity, and we're paying you for this opportunity. And I don't think that mindset is around, or it's not as prevalent as it was when I was coming up through the ranks, right? Or earning my stripes or whatever was going on at that time. And I value that, I value that advice right now. I wish he would have given it to me a little kinder, right? It was like, then there's the door, buddy, if you want to take it, but you're not going to learn shit except for how to make nuggets.
Yeah.
So,
although one could argue making nuggets is a very valuable life skill, so.
I learned how to do that in the air fryer for my son pretty easily. So
Perfect.
And I don't get paid anything for that job, right?
Well, you get paid in memories.
And
At
hugs.
least that's what I'm
He gives me
told.
lots of hugs, especially when I give him chicken nuggets. So
Perfect. I was having an interesting conversation with my dad the other day, and a few people are around us. So my first place I lived in after I moved out of home was a family friend's basement, which wasn't finished. It leaked. My bed was right next to the washer and dryer, which seemed to never be off. My clothes were hanging from wire on hangers. It was a dilapidated hellhole,
Yeah.
But it was my first place, and gradually my places got nicer as I went along.
Right.
And I said, I asked my dad, I said, what was your first place? And he said, oh, my first place was a tent in the backyard of my parents' yard. Like I was paying for a tent. I'm like, oh, okay. So the reason why we got in this conversation was my friend, his son is now moved out. He's got a $2,750 a month apartment. He's got a nice car. He's got all these things, and he's wondering why he can't afford anything. And he's like, all they're willing to pay me at all these jobs is minimum wage. I said, yeah, you're 18. You literally have zero skills in the workforce.
right.
But some idiot allowed you to take this crazy rent on, this crazy lease. You're spending money at the bars every weekend. I said, I couldn't do that. Like generations before understood what minimum wage was. It was the bare minimum, meaning you have to buy the bare minimum. There's a big debate right now about whether the minimum wage in Manitoba should go up to $15, because right now it's sitting
Right.
at $11.35 or something. And I sit back and I say, look, every time I've ever seen the minimum wage go up, prices go up precipitously within 8 months.
Right.
So I don't think that the answer to any question is just keep throwing more money at it.
No.
I think the answer to the question that the younger generation is having a problem with is understanding what the word minimum means, and then being able to put the work in so that you are qualified to get more than the minimum, right? Because like I have a nice place now. I just put an offer in on a nicer place. I'm very excited. I hope I get it. It's actually a dream place for me. I've always wanted a loft style condo, but I started in that basement, and there are places like that basement everywhere, but they don't want to live in them. They don't want to. Right. Again, it's like that guy with the job before the job before the job. They want the life before the life that you have to live to get some grit, to learn how the world works. Oh God,
and have a little bit of tenacity, right? And
yeah,
I think if the world wants to have a $5 footlong from Subway, then it can't have $15 minimum wage.
Yeah,
the two things, like having affordable good stuff and having a high minimum wage, it doesn't work together. And unfortunately, what's going to happen is that this drive for a high minimum wage is going to automate the jobs away.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah,
And
we
and,
have
and a,
we've jobs we've
and a-
done that with.
Yeah, and a high minimum wage devalues the person that's been in the workforce for 5 and 10 years, right? Because they're not getting, the minimum wage is going up much faster than, I had a talk with the guy the other day about he left his, Deloitte was the firm that he worked at. He left because he was getting 5% raises every year. He wanted to start his own business because that's what you get at those big firms. You get your 5% or 3% raises every year, right? So, and those raises don't outpace the giant jumps that we have in minimum wage, but we'll see what happens. I believe in relativity, right? Minimum wage goes up, everything else goes up, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, today we're living in a very strange economic framework today in mid 22.
We live in this weird instant gratification, everything needs to be perfect life, but honestly, that basement I slept in that I could barely sleep in because the damn water flick all night, and every bus I took, every walk I had to take because the buses weren't running that late, so I ended up having to walk 3-4 miles to get home.
Yep.
All these things that happened as a result of my struggle, I look at them and I say, great. Now in the moment, this sucks. But now I look back and I say, there's no way I survive a boardroom full of people looking to cut their teeth on the kid walking in if I don't have those struggles. It's just the way it is. You have to know why you have to have been hungry to know why it is that it's so satisfying to eat a good meal.
Yes. And if you're not willing to fight to be higher than minimum wage, you're not going to fight for that $1,000 deal or that $10,000 deal, or you're not going to be willing to fight for that $100,000 and the $1 million deals. And I promise you, the fights every single stage, the new level, new devil is a real thing, and the fights get much more challenging, right? And I say fights as a term of negotiation or fighting for what you're wanting to get, and it's a struggle.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's for example, right now, we have to deal with I've never had an IP lawyer, never needed one. Now I need an IP team. I have this IP team all of a sudden. I'm like, what is this? All because now we're about to release a feature in August that if we don't take care of our IP, I guarantee people are going to start scooping this idea. It's never been done in ticketing before. It's a whole new way. It literally flips the concept on its head. And now I know the competition's watching. I know people that think they can do it better are watching. I know that my clients, my customers, they're all watching. The lawyers are watching. The accountants are watching. Now everything I do, there's like 80 people involved in every decision I make. It's so insane. Whereas in the beginning it was like, should I put this flyer over here when it says don't put flyers over here? You're like, that was my risk level in the beginning.
Right.
Now my risk level is release something without going through all these people and end up losing my entire livelihood of business. It's just so wild.
Yeah. One of my first .coms that got somewhat successful, about 3 days after it hit what I would consider success, 50,000 new subscribers, I got sued, right? Literally, they said I was, and I did the research, right? I did the trademark lookups and all this stuff. They sued. I won. We went to the Geneva Convention at the WIPO court, and I won that one. And the very next day, when you're fighting a company like Match.com, the very next day after we won the suit, they filed another suit in the city of Chicago. When I called them, I said, "What are you doing? Like, you're going out of business. You're not going to compete with us in this market. Period. End of story." And they ended up buying the company from me. They ended up buying that intellectual property from me for pennies on the dollar because they were just going to continue to sue me until I went away. And they made that very, very clear. So I guess the term fight is a real word, is the real term that you should use there, because when you start to get to a level, there's going to be people that try to knock you down. And unfortunately, I gave up on that one, right? I sold out not too early. I got sued twice. I fought the good fight and then decided this is a David Goliath.
Getting stuck in court and dealing with lawyers and everything all the time, that's in the life nobody wants, right? And
no, it's horrible.
The fact that you held out on the first one, even a lot of people aren't willing to do that. But so that speaks to your tenacity. But yeah, you know what, and that's the piece of business that, you know, I'm like, how is that not illegal? You know, like just the mere possibility that somebody could do that. You know, the lawsuit should have to be examined prior to it even going to the court to say, is this even like a valid business practice?
Right.
You know, I obviously don't know the specifics, but I do know that, you know, a lot of Ticketmaster has purchased a lot of sites like ours. Once they get to a certain level of success, they used to sue them into the ground too. But I think I'm hoping we're into a new day here now where they're buying companies instead of trying to tank them. But I do know it still happens, and I feel so bad for any entrepreneur that happens to, because how are you going to take on a giant company like that? They'll come up with an excuse every time.
But I think to get to the next level, you have to go through things like that. You have to understand. Otherwise, you're just going to keep making. You know, I made the mistake. I went out without getting a trademark on my concept. They had a trademark, I didn't. Right, and at the end of the day, I can't say the second part of the phrase because I'm legally not allowed to for our settlement agreement. But we were fighting over the letter E and the letter I. Right, E meaning electronic and I meaning the person making an action. So I had I and a phrase, and they had E and a phrase, and you know, I did win the court cases, and I was right, absolutely. But it didn't matter. Right and law are two different things, especially when it comes to business.
Yeah, corporate law is something else. It's definitely something else.
Yes. Jay, I've had a blast talking with you and just learning a little bit about your business and your history. You know, there's no doubt that you've gone through a lot, and you know, being in an accident that paralyzes you. I know I wasn't paralyzed at all, luckily, but I was very close to it, and I know that takes a lot of energy and mind work and a lot to get through. So congratulations on that, and getting to a point that you're not just surviving, that you're striving, and I think that's wildly important. Before we go, if there's somebody out there in the world that's thinking about starting their business and they're scared for whatever reason, right? If it's the money or the knowledge or whatever reason it is that they're not getting off their couch or not getting off the sidelines and getting into it because they have something that they want to do and they're just scared to do it, what kind of advice do you give that guy today or that lady today?
Well, I think it depends on where they're at in terms of their excuses. If they're a couple weeks, couple months into their excuses, and they're just like, you know, they released a new season of Walking Dead, I can't possibly start my business now. You know, you look at the degree of the excuse plus how long, you know, if you're 5 years into your excuses, look, you're just not, don't do it, because clearly you don't have the passion for it, and you need so much passion to be an entrepreneur because there are so many bad days. And then you look at the degrees of your excuses. You know, if there are real things that stop people from starting businesses, you know, if you have I don't have a wife and kids, so I have a little bit more freedom than somebody who has wife and kids that's like, you know, I got mouths to feed, but at the same time I really want to do this, right? But again, if your excuse is The Walking Dead has a new season out, so I can't start my business right now, don't. Because just be real with yourself and say, I obviously don't want this bad enough if I'm going to let a TV show stand in the way, right? So I'll speak to the people that, you know, have legitimate reasons why they're hesitating, and I think it's everything in life. It's you know, whether you're starting as a DJ, whether you want to go skydiving, whether you want to start a business, whatever it is, whether you want to ask out that person who's caught your eye, one foot in front of the other, you know, small little steps. I actually have it in my to-do list every day at the top of my to-do list. You won't be able to see it, but it says kick ass by going 1% each day and stay awake. So the reason why I put that is because I look at it at everything as a 100-day plan. That's the way I do it. So I'm like, I gotta accomplish 1% of my goal for the next 100 days today. And I cannot go to bed until that 1% has been accomplished. So, you know, I know starting a business and getting an accountant and incorporating all these things that seem so crazy, but make a list of everything you have to do, break it down, and then all of a sudden it becomes achievable, right? And I think that's the biggest goal or the biggest lesson I've learned over time is if you look at something as a large goal, you're probably never going to accomplish it. But if you break it down in those micro tasks and you just put one foot in front of the other, whether it be going up and saying, "Hi, I'm Jay, you're beautiful," or whether it be going out, walking out and just going, "I'm going to go figure out a logo today," or I'm going to go, I'm going to start writing. I'll write the first paragraph of my executive summary, anything. Because once you start, if it's what you really like, if you're passionate for it, you're going to be a rocket at some point and just keep going.
Right. And on a side note, if you get to the point and you're just like, I don't like doing this, that's okay too. Stop.
That is okay.
Figure something out. Change. It's okay. Right? You don't have to keep that website up to and then tell your friends and family like, oh yeah, I'm still doing that, but I got a full-time job on the side. Just put it to bed. Move on with life. Don't stop and spin your wheels for a very long time. It's exhausting. It's not exhausting. It's not only exhausting to your friends and family and everybody around you, it's exhausting to yourself. So
self-honesty is one of the most important things to learn in life, and that is to sit down with yourself and be like, I've done ayahuasca. I've gone ayahuasca retreats in Peru.
Okay,
and,
I'm a little nervous to do that. I want to so bad, but I'm nervous. So
yeah, I can say it's you confront everything, right?
Yes.
So that's how I look at everything now. Is like, because at the end of the ayahuasca trip, you literally come out of yourself. You sit down in front of yourself, and you lay into yourself about everything that you're allowing to your subconscious to just bury, right? So it's a valuable life lesson to really sit down with yourself and say, do I like this? Am I really good at this? Or am I fooling myself? Things like that. And there have been things that I really wanted to accomplish. I really wanted to be a writer. I wrote 2 books. I published 2 books. They're not very good. They just aren't. They're fine. Some people will find them hilarious or whatever, but they're not what I want to put out in the world as a writer. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take a break from that. I'm going to focus on stuff I'm good at. Maybe one day when I'm retired, I can write some stuff that I feel proud about. But for now, I'm not that good. So why would I continue to do this? Right?
Right. If you like doing it, though, is a great way to do it. And I like to do things like I wrote a book just to see, could I? Right? Can I Can I write a book and publish it? Yep, I can. Okay. I don't like it, so I don't promote it, and it doesn't sell it sells okay in Japan for some reason. But it's 99-cent book on Amazon, so it is what it is, and it's okay.
So yeah, awesome. I hobby write now for sure. I do. I have a blog and I hobby write. I tweet Twitter storms like crazy, and I have fun. I have fun with it that way. But I'm not gonna go. You know what? Because I want to be a writer, that means I can be a writer. And now I'm going to give up everything. I'm going to make this my life. I know that I don't have that, whatever that it factor is there. I don't have it. So
right. Awesome. Yeah. Jay, thank you for your time today. I very much appreciate it. I hope you have a great week.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.